Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are doing a deck tech for Y'shtola Rhul. Y'shtola is a 6-mana 3/5 cat druid and says at the beginning of your end step, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Then, if it is the first end step of the turn, there is an additional end step after this end step. So this is some blinking and bounce. So why play Y'shtola? Because Final Fantasy is cool. I've said it all, guys. It's a great game franchise. Check it out. So the way she functionally works is 2 blinks per turn, right? Because she doubles up your end step abilities. So you go to your first end step, you do a little blink, you bring it right back, you get to enter the battlefield ability, fantastic. And then we go to our second end step, and then we do it again. So functionally 2 blinks a turn, which is really, really cool because it lets us we have a lot of like end of the turn abilities that can kind of go nuts with this, and now we're getting 2 of them. So mono blue also has everything we really do need for this kind of blink deck. There's so much versatility in all the colors, like all the main blink things are in blue anyways, so really, really good. The game plan is we do need her to win, right? She's got to be on the field just because the 2 blinks a turn is so valuable, and just having multiple end steps is also really good. I'll be honest, guys, this isn't going to go stomp. This deck's not going to stomp your local LGS. It's not going to have a consistent win. This is more of a silly, low-powered deck that's kind of meant to have fun. So early game, we just want to try to get set up and keep the board clean. What I mean by this is play our early mana rocks and just kind of do stuff like a lot of our guys enter the battlefield and they bounce another creature, and I'll explain this later because we want to do a lot of bouncing so we can try to keep the board clear and make sure our opponents aren't progressing too much faster than us. Mid game, we just want to try to outvalue our opponents with ETB abilities and by blinking them, so like all of our ETB abilities are ideally doubled up later in the game, and we're just kind of getting too much value. Like everything ideally is a 2-for-1, and then when we're blinking them, it's like a 3-for-1. Late game, we just want to double up all of the abilities on the field with Y'shtola, and then we just want to kind of clear the way for the creatures that we do have, because we have a decent amount of good bodies on the field, and we want to use all of these bounce abilities to just kind of make sure our opponents can't block and that they're not really progressing too fast. So channel and deck stuff. The deck's like $430 for the making of the video. I would take it with a grain of salt just because Final Fantasy has every card listed at like over $30 just because of the hype. That's really only collector boosters. Like set boosters are going to drag every card price down. I'd be shocked if Y'shtola is more than like $10 at the end of the day. Get the cards you do need from the link right down below, and then as always, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. So let's go into it. Creatures, Aether Channeler is an excellent example of a creature that we want in this deck. When he enters, choose one. We can make a bird to block with. We bounce another target non-land permanent, which is pretty much the ideal, or we draw a card, right? So Aether Channeler is the return another target non-land permanent to the hand is when I say bounce, this is what I mean, right? So all of these bounce abilities, if someone plays like, oh yeah, I'll play my commander, it's like, yeah, I'll pay 3 mana and it's back in your hand, and then like I'll use Y'shtola, and then blink Aether Channeler, and blinking is just exiling and returning it back to the field. I'm going to blink this, have the ability happen again, and just like ideally we're doing this multiple times a turn so our opponents have a hard time kind of keeping things, or at least they have a hard time keeping good things. Stuff that we don't mind they can have. But yeah, making a bird the block, making a bird to attack is great, drawing cards, and then just also bouncing is fantastic. Agent of Treachery is probably one of the bigger stinks in this deck. When he enters the battlefield, gain control at target permanent, and then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. Let's talk about him and Y'shtola in a vacuum. We play Y'shtola turn 6, we blink whatever, right? Turn 7, we play Agent of Treachery, we then steal a permanent, we then go to our end step, and then we blink Agent of Treachery twice, get 2 more permanents, and then next turn we'll be drawing 6 cards at our end step. Pretty good. Archaeomancer is really just to get back your instants and sorceries. He's not like a primary blink target, right? Like you can look at a lot of the cards in this, like the creatures especially, as is this a primary blink target? Is this not a primary blink target? One's more, we're going to need this to win, and the other is more, this is good value. Agent of Treachery is we need this to win. Archaeomancer is more like, yeah, if we got something good in our grave and we want to get it back, it's a great target. Astral Dragon enters the battlefield, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except they are 3/3 dragons. And again, the idea with all of these cards, right, is we have Y'shtola on the field. So the idea is this thing enters, we make 2 token copies of a non-creature permanent. That could be anything. That could be like even a mana rock. Who cares, right? We now have 2, let's say it's a soul ring. We now have 2 3/3 soul rings. We then go to our end step. We blink Astral Dragon. We get 2 more 3/3 soul rings. And then we go to our second end step and we get 2 more 3/3 soul rings. We now have 6 3/3 soul rings, which is pretty good. With flying, especially too. Circuit Mender is really great, just kind of all around for a blink deck. When he enters, gain 2. When he leaves, draw a card. So really, we blink him a bunch of times, we gain a bunch of life, we draw a bunch of cards. Short, sweet, to the point. Deadeye Navigator is blinking on a stick, so he enters the battlefield soulbound to another creature you control, and then each of those creatures has the ability of paying 2 mana to exile this creature and return it to the battlefield. So it's really, really good at dodging, like someone tries to kill a creature. It's really good at kind of dodging those abilities. And if you want to reset Deadeye Navigator to someone else, let's say you have it on Circuit Mender early game and then we draw Astral Dragon, well, we can always blink Deadeye Navigator to himself and then have him soulbound with Astral Dragon, which is really nice. Diluvian Primordial enters. For each opponent, cast an instant or sorcery from their graveyard for free and then exile it. That's really, really good late game. It's kind of like you get the best of both, or kind of the best of everything. Like you can get kill spells, ramp, like probably not board wipe, but like a lot of good utility from everyone's really good. Displacer Kitten, whenever we cast a non-creature, which we do have a lot of, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent you control and return it. You blink it. Whenever you cast a non-land or a non-creature spell, blink permanent or non-land permanent we control. So it's flickering our creatures, it's blinking like our mana rocks to keep them untapped and everything. It's really, really good. Dowerport Mage is whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, i.e. getting blinked, we draw a card. And then we can pay 2 to bounce a creature we control to our hand if we want. That's fine, I guess. He's kind of a weird roundabout blink target. So like in a weird vacuum, if you have him and like another creature, you can pay 2 mana to functionally put the 1 in your hand, draw a card, and then I guess you could recast it. So it's like the worst blink. Exclusion Mage enters the battlefield just to bounce a creature. Just get it out of here. Like, this is something we want to blink pretty frequently. Of just get it back in your hand. We want to clear the way and start attacking with, say, with like Feywild Catcher. Enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. It's basically just a dungeon. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, which we probably will, create a 1/1 blue dragon fairy creature token with flying. So really, really neat, right? Because we can talk about like him like this, right? He enters the battlefield, we take the initiative, right? We now have the initiative, we go for the first level of the dungeon, then we go to our end step, we blink it, we make a 1/1 bird, and then we blink him again. Or sorry, we don't even have to blink him again. We just go to our second end step, and then we make a 1/1 bird. Or funny enough, if we don't have the initiative and someone hit us, we blink, we go to our first end step, we blink him, he enters, we take the initiative, we do the dungeon thing, we go to our second end step, we have the initiative, we then make a 1/1 flying bird. I call them birds or dragons, but whatever. Flesh Duplicate is a 2-mana clone of any copy of a creature, is a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Except it has Vanishing 3. Now, the cool thing about Vanishing 3 is it really doesn't matter because we want to blink it anyway. So it's always just going to enter with like these 3 vanishing counters on it over and over again. So it's functionally a 2-mana clone. Harbinger of Seas is just a really good hate piece. Just non-basic islands are lands. Sorry, non-basic islands are lands. They really are. Non-basic lands are islands, which is really great just because we're mono blue and we kind of want everything to be islands. And if someone is multicolor or they're in like even more popular now, like 5-color decks, good luck. Like, you just got islands. Jill, Shiva's Dominant, is really good. So once she enters, you just bounce up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. It's a big importance to note that there are some cards that return non-land permanents, and there are some cards that return creatures, right? Creatures, obviously only hit creatures, but non-land permanents give us a lot more options. Be like, yeah, I don't like that enchantment. Get it out of here. That's really why she's in the deck. If you want to pay 5 mana and flip her over, we could. But like ideally, we're not really doing that too often because we don't really care if our creatures are like unblocked because we can kind of clear the way relatively easy. And then we can just tap all the lands anyway, tap all their lands after 2 turns, and then she'll enter and then we bounce something. I mean, I don't know. It's all right. It's all right. It's a 4/5. It's all right. Kiora, the Rising Tide, she enters, we draw 2, discard 2. Really, really good, especially when we're doing that frequently and drawing 2 and discarding 2 a lot. And then whenever she attacks, if we have 7 or more cards in our grave, we make a big 8/8 legendary octopus. So really good. That's a big creature. Manowar enters just to bounce a creature. Meringue River Regent. So early game, we can just discard 3 and then draw a card, short, sweet to the point, shuffle him back in. And late game, we can bounce him and enter in him, all that good stuff. When he enters, return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. So it's like a super bounce. And again, think with Y'shtola, we have him come into play. We bounce 2 non-lands. Y'shtola blinks it twice. We bounce 4 more non-lands. Really good. Master of the Waves, I kind of like. I couldn't help but run, right? So he's pro red. Elemental creatures you control get +1/+0. When he enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/0 blue elemental creature tokens equal to our devotion. So at the very worst, right, he is a 2/1 that brings him a 1/1. The tricky part is since he makes these 1/0s, they die right away, which is not good if he leaves the battlefield. So the way I imagine him is we blink him like once, right? We basically get like an army of 1/1s that can attack, and then whenever like all of those guys die just because they're just like an army of 1/1s because we're mono blue and our devotion to blue is high, we can just blink him again and get a bunch more dudes. So he's kind of like, oh yeah, like someone's doing big attacks on us, like yeah, we can just make like an army of 2/1s. That's fine. Meteor Golem, he enters. He destroys target non-land permanent. If there's anything better about bouncing a permanent, it's destroying it. Muldrifter is also very excellent. Enters the battlefield just to draw 2 cards, and then early game we can pay 3 mana and sacrifice it for its evoke cost just to draw 2. So good early game and late game. Overlord of the Flood Pits is very, very cool. So whenever it enters or attacks, draw 2 and then discard a card. It has its impending cost, which is actually really important for this deck because if you cast it for its impending cost, it comes in with those 4 time counters, and you remove one at the beginning of our end step. However, we have 2 end steps with this Y'shtola, so really instead of getting him in like 3 or 4 turns, we get him in like 2 turns, which is really cool. Peregrine Drake enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands. This card and Deadeye Navigator are an infinite combo because functionally you're paying 2 mana to untap 5 lands, so you can see how that can go infinite. It's not really like the intention of the deck, but infinite blue is infinite blue, and they're both good in the deck regardless of the combo. Scampering Surveyor enters the battlefield. Functionally, search your deck for a basic land, put it into play tapped. That's kind of it. Scourge of Fleets is a big bomb in this deck. When it enters, return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to their owner's hand, where X is the number of islands. Now, the really cool thing about this is we're a mono blue deck, so we have a lot of islands. And that basically says all of our opponent's creatures are back in their hands. Solemn is excellent too. When he enters, search our deck for a land, and then when he dies, we can just draw a card. So again, a lot of these guys are just for, and the same thing with the Surveyor, right? Is just, he's going to come into play, he's just going to hard ramp us. Like these are our hard ramp pieces. Spark Double enters as a copy of Y'shtola. That's functionally the reason he is in this deck. He doesn't double up end steps. However, it's still basically 2 blinks on a guy, which is very nice. Stern Proctor comes into play just to bounce artifacts or enchantments because we have a couple non-lands, we have a couple creatures, but this guy is really just to deal with artifacts and enchantments. And the nice thing about it is just as Magic progresses, there have been more and more artifact and enchantment creatures, so he can be a good 2-for-1, which is nice. Thassid Deep Dwelling is honestly the alternate commander for this deck. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, you know, the whole god thing, indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, blink a creature and return it to the battlefield under your control. And then we can pay 4 mana and tap a creature. Now that's something fun we can do, save infinite mana with the Drake and Deadeye Navigator. We just tap our opponent's creatures infinitely. And they can't attack us and they can't block us. Thought Monitor has affinities for artifacts, so I know it has that big scary 7 cost, but it really is not going to cost that because we have a lot of, you know, all of our ramp is artifacts, right? So if we're ever playing this thing for 7, something has kind of gone wrong. But it enters and we get 2 cards. And then the final 2 creatures we have in the deck are Urza, Lord High Artificer. I like him just because, so he enters the battlefield and he makes a 0/0, you know, equal to the number of artifacts we control. And then it just makes all of our artifacts into like Mock Sapphires, which is really nice. We can pay 5 mana to exile the top card of our deck and then cast it without paying its mana cost. which is pretty sweet. But I really like the idea of even just raw blinking him. He comes in as a 1/4, and then he makes a 0. He makes a 1/1, and then we blink him again, and he makes a 2/2, and we blink him again, and now there are a bunch of 3/3s. So he's like a blink target that scales almost. And he adds mana, and we can play cards for free. Venser is just silly. He's a fun counterspell, basically, like a remand almost. And then as we continue to bounce him, we just keep blinking, bouncing our opponent's permanents to their hands. Really cool. The one and only sorcerer we have is Spectral Deluge. We could probably foretell it just because it's easy. We're not doing too much early game anyways. Return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less to their owner's hand, where X is the number of islands you control. So foretelling it, we don't really want to rip it out too early, because like even if we're doing it turn 3, that's like bouncing everything that costs 3 or less. That's still kind of awkward, and we would skip our turn 2 for it. But it's really great late game just because it's practically a one-sided board wipe. Speaking of one-sided board wipes, we have Aetherize, which is return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. That's really if someone tries to bother us and do a one big swing. We don't like it. Arcane Denial is just a counterspell that'll draw us 2 cards, and our opponent can have 1 card. Counterspell is counterspell. We counterspell. We are a blue deck. Cyclonic Rift is definitely a one-sided board wipe. The biggest bounce there is. Displace is a cheeky 3 mana, just blink up to 2 creatures. That's really it. You get 2 good ETB abilities, which is really nice. And Essence Flux is just a quick 1 mana version of that. I don't think we have any spirits in the deck, but if we do, we put a counter on it if it is. But 1 mana to blink sounds good to me. Fierce Guardianship, just to protect Y'shtola, because the deck doesn't really work without her. Ghostly Flicker is another just 3 mana cheeky blink 2 creatures we have. Really good. Or artifacts. Or lands. Probably just the creatures, honestly. High Tide is if we want to have a big explosive turn. It's basically we pay 1 mana and then we double all of our islands for the turn, which can be really, really good because functionally we're paying 1 mana to make all of our other lands basically tap for 2. Sounds good to me. We have Negate, counter target non-creature spell, hits everything but creatures. Planar Incision, blink a creature or artifact, and then it comes back with a 1/1 counter. Sink and Stupor, return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to their owner's hand, and it's a land on the back. So kind of a land when we need it, counter when we don't. Going into artifacts, we have Arcane Signet, add 1 mana of any color to your colors, Arcane Signet. Shamil, very excellent. Spells you control can't be countered, and at the beginning of your end step, discover 5, and the cool thing is we have 2 end steps, so we discover 5 twice, basically. Conjurer's Closet, the same thing as Y'shtola, same thing as Thassa. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature, return it to the battlefield under your control. Hey, we have 2 end steps, so we get to blink 2 more creatures. Felwarstone is just a cheeky little mana rock. God Pharaoh's Statue I like the idea of, just because it makes our opponent's spells cost 2 more to cast. So the idea is we bounce their creatures, and now, and really we bounce their stuff, and now it all costs 2 more to cast. So it's kind of like a big middle finger to them. And then at the beginning of our end step, each opponent loses 1 life, but the thing is, we have 2 end steps, so each opponent really loses 2 life. Heraldic Banner, it's probably a better option to run a different rock, but we're a mono blue deck, so just making all of our creatures +1/+0 and just a rock anyway is still pretty fine. Kefnit's Monument to make our blue creatures cost 1 less, and whenever we cast a creature, we just freeze, tap down a creature an opponent controls, and that's really it. It'll tap it down and then it won't untap. That's freezing. I think I'm going to do a video about magic slang, just so it's easy to be on the same page. Midnight Clock, it's kind of a, I don't know, I think it's like a sleeper artifact. Taps for a blue, pay 3 just to put an hour counter on it, and at the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on it, and then when it has 12 or more, when the 12th hour counter is put on it, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library and draw 7 cards. So it kind of at that point, it basically has to be like 3 turn cycles of a pot of 4 to really make it go nuts. But I mean, either way, right, it's a mana rock, and then later in the game, again, 4 turns later, it will draw us a new hand. Mindstone is also really good. Just, we kind of thrive later in the game because more of the big creatures that have better ETBs cost more, Y'shtola cost more, so we just kind of need the mana to get there. Palantir of Orthanc, I can't pronounce these cards. At the beginning of your end step, and hey, remember, we have 2 of them, put an influence counter on it and then scry 2. Target opponent may have us draw a card, and if they don't, we mill X, and then X is the number of, obviously, influence counters on it, and then they lose life equal to the mana value of the milled cards. So they're basically put in the predicament of, hey, do you want us to draw 2 cards, or do you want to potentially take like 15 damage on our end step? Yeah, you can pick. Panharmonicon doubles up everything. Just if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes an ability of a permanent you control to trigger, which is generally the card itself, it happens again. It doubles up all of our ETBs. Sapphire Medallion, we're mono blue. Our blue spells cost 1 less. Sounds pretty good. Soul Ring is Soul Ring. The Water Crystal is a brand new card, and I'm kind of iffy on it in this deck. So blue spells you cast cost 1 less. That's kind of why it's in here. Just because we can just have a permanent cost reducer for everything. Because Captain's Monument hits creatures. You know, it's basically a bit more Sapphire Medallion. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many plus 4. This can be a double-edged sword if someone's trying to do like a self-mill or reanimator deck, or if one of our opponents is on mill. But I mean, either way, right? It's kind of like we just want it for the cost reduction. And then if we really have nothing to do, we can pay 6, have each opponent mill cards equal to the number of cards in our hand. Ideally, we have 1 card in our hand, so worst case scenario, we have 1 card in hand, we tap 6, each opponent mills 5, which isn't that bad. Thought Vessel to give us no max hand size, because again, we have a lot of guys that enter and they draw 2 cards, and then we blink them, and then we draw like 4 more cards. So having no max hand size is pretty important. Going into enchantments, we have back to basics to make non-basic lands not untap during their controller's untap step. We're a mono blue deck. We really do not care about this. Like, we have like maybe 5 non-basic lands or whatever that won't untap. But like, hey, I would trade like maybe 1 or 2 of our lands not untapping for like all of our opponent's lands to not untap. Primordial Mist is a very silly card, right? At the beginning of your end step, you may manifest the top card of your deck, so put it on the battlefield, it's a 2/2. And then you can exile a face-down permanent you control to play that card this turn. Sorry, exile a face-down permanent you control face up. Right, whatever. There's a lot going on with this card, right? First things first, manifest the top card of our deck. We just put the top card of our deck on the field. It is a 2/2. If it is a creature and we blink it, it comes back as the creature. And since it's at the beginning of our end step, we do this twice. So on our end step, we get 2 2/2s. And then the really issue with manifesting these cards and manifest dread or whatever everything is, right? Cloak or whatever have you. If it's not a creature, you can't really cast it, but exile a face down permanent you control face up. So basically just exile one of the manifest cards and you can play it this turn. Like if it's like a sorcery, like normally that'd be gone. If it's a land, normally it would be gone. We can just exile it and then we can play it. Pretty good. Propaganda, don't attack us. We don't want you to attack us. Ristic Study, just to really tax our opponent and draw us a lot of cards. Virtue of Knowledge is an early game copy target activated or triggered ability. Let's say like there's just like a blink or there's like a good ETB, we can just copy it. Or we ideally want to play Virtue of Knowledge and just kind of have it be a second copy of Panharmonicon. Going into lands, it's really not crazy because we're a mono blue deck. And because we're mono blue, we run Nykthos, Shrine the Nyx, pay 2, choose a color, it's blue, add a mana to your mana pool for each color of your devotion to that color. We say blue, we get a bunch of mana. Reliquary Tower to give us no max hand size. Scavenger Grounds, just to really have an option for Grave Hate, just to exile a graveyard if someone's doing Reanimator or Mill or whatever. Arcane Lighthouse and Detection Tower are functionally the same reason. Just pay a mana, we can target creatures with Hexproof and Shroud and whatever, right? It's really just like if an opponent puts like Swiftfoot Boots or Greaves on something and we want to blink it and we can't because it's protected, it's our way around it. Mistrise Village is really just a spell can't be countered, right? It's going to enter tapped, unfortunately, but it's really just our next spell can't be countered. And then finally, War Room. Taps for a colorless, pay 3 mana, and pay life equal to the number of colors in our commander's color identity, which is 1. Draw a card, so 3 mana, 1 life, draw a card, not too bad. And then finally, we have 28 islands because we're a mono blue deck, and we run a lot of those, like Harbinger of Seas and Back to Basics. We hate non-basic lands. But that's all I got for you guys. Get the cards you need from the link right down below. As always, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.